it's totally fine. My like messy curly hair is not fully curling.
You're fine.
Do you
I
have curly hair?
I wish I had curly hair like that. I have wavy hair.
Okay, well, I have this weird kind of like half and half thing where like some days I used to have really curly hair, but I went through this horrible yet in perspective beautiful phase where I dyed my hair every month a different color, and now it's just this weird kind of crinkle. It's like the memory of curly hair, but it's not the curly hair anymore.
Where do you live? That has a lot to do with it too.
New
Like
York.
humidity. Is it humid in New York?
It could be, right? It could. New York's weather is so weird because New Yorkers, like, we only think of New York in terms of the summer where it does get really humid. Like, we're consistently shocked how cold it gets here. We're weird.
That's not fun. Let me, I texted Josh because I had a little trouble getting into the call. So let me just verify with him. I'm going to say
Okay.
she's on. How are you?
I'm good. That's usually the question I ask. Like, that's usually my first question because I feel like that might be the simplest, most pertinent question to any artist, which is, how are you doing? How are you?
Good. I'm releasing music, which is really, really cool. I think it's something that I've waited for so long. I started making this stuff that I'm putting out right now at the beginning of COVID. And so it's just been this like whole patience game this whole time. Um, so to see, I don't know, just to finally be able to release stuff is like nice, but also terrifying because of everything that's happening with COVID and not knowing whether or not, things are going to get shut down again, but I'm hopeful. So
The things you say, stop saying such things shut down again. No, it is kind of crazy. I find curious what you're saying, because on one hand, we are treating the pandemic like it's over. And then like you turn on the news and it's like new variant. It's the worst it's ever been in Michigan. And I feel like COVID is such a weird thing because there are people who I think there are artists that have never had a better 2 years. They were like, I made 20 million tracks, I released 20 million tracks, I'm TikTok famous. And there are others that are like, I have, like you, where they're like, I just sat on music a little bit because I just thought to myself, how is this going to burst onto a scene that is literally non-existent or more so viral than ever?
totally. Yeah. I feel like patience was probably the biggest thing that this whole thing has taught me. But I also feel like it was a cool opportunity to like really hone in my like artistry and just like figure out when I release stuff or, even the music that I was making throughout, what I wanted to say. It just forced you to kind of like extra take a look at what you would, normally we don't get to look at it that deeply, just with time and life. But yeah, this time was a little bit different. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Well, but was there a reason you waited? Did you just feel it wasn't right? Like, what about, or did you feel like you weren't there yet? Like you weren't there ready to release? Because some people dove in.
I honestly, for me, my whole thing was wanting to play live. Like, I feel like, I do all the social media things, but I don't feel like I thrive in that atmosphere as much. I feel like I've just really wanted to get a live show going. So for me, I knew like launching a project, but not having that option was going to be really difficult. So that's why I waited.
Yeah. Yeah, that I just interviewed another artist who was saying the same thing, of kind of this feeling that without the live aspect, it wasn't just that he didn't feel the music didn't come alive, but there's almost this little pocket of emptiness to you as an artist, knowing that it's just going to stay in the ethos and never hit a stage.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like there's just something different about being around real people and getting to play your music and see, develop relationships with people who enjoy it. So that's, yeah. Yeah.
So when you think of Apple Boy, like what about this track is, because you take these 2 years of like, which you're totally right, where everybody got really introspective. What about these 2 years do you feel Apple Boy embodies?
Apple Boy. I feel like it was the first time when I first started working on that song. It was kind of the first, I think it was one of the first tracks that I did off of the whole EP.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it was the first time that I had kind of found this like unique, edgy thing that I kind of tried to tap into for the rest of the EP. But also it was the first song and it shaped the course of the rest of the EP. Like a lot of the, Apple Boy is a metaphorical song, but all of the rest of the tracks pretty much are metaphors as well. And so they kind of all have these really elementary ways of saying things, but they're really like have a lot of depth to them. And yeah, that kind of shaped the way that I wrote. And now I feel like I do kind of like tap into a little bit more of that metaphorical writing since then. Yeah, more so than I ever did before.
I kind of get the vibe. I don't know. Like I know that whenever I make music, there's always that feeling you get with a song where you're like, oh, this is special. This is what I need to aim for. It kind of feels like that's what you felt with Apple Boy. Like you made songs before and then you made songs after this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. That's like the perfect way to put it. I felt like it definitely set a different course for me. And it's exciting. Like now, even writing for my next, or almost being finished with my like next project. I can see now like full circle, wow, this thing just like influenced everything else for sure. So super cool.
So what would you say is including the songs of the EP, what are if you can make it in one sentence, what are each metaphor that you go through?
Okay, so the track listing, the first song that I put out was Squishy. And that one is, I use a lot of imagery in that song, but also a couple metaphorical references. That one, there's that. And then there's my next single, it's called Crumblin. And it's kind of this idea of being in a relationship where you're not getting what you're giving kind of situation. And so it's this idea of like, the first lyric is, you could have told me the milk was empty. And it's like the perfect thing of like, someone puts this milk carton back into the fridge, not thinking about you. But in your opinion, if that were you never do something like that to the other person. Yeah. And then it kind of makes references to cookies, all the things. Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple more there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. One of the songs is kind of silly. It's about a zit. It's called Blemish. And it kind of, I was like, do I say this on it? Okay, I went there. It's about a zit. And it's kind of, it's the idea of how we're all going to get them. And it's kind of just talking about imperfection and how eventually the things that we thought were a big deal and with imperfections, end up being so insignificant to us, a year later. So yeah, that's kind of what that song was about. And yeah, at the time I was starting the EP, I was on a juice cleanse. And so every time I would go to the studio, I would be super hungry. And so when I started writing, I would just do these like silly things about food. And then that's kind of how it all turned into like metaphors for life. And a lot of it was based around, food and just like other elementary ways of saying things. I really dig that, because I think that specificity works in drawing in listeners. Like the whole, you could have told me the milk carton was empty. Right there, you put me in that position.
of kind of opening the fridge, seeing the milk carton is empty, pulling it out. And then I think that every relationship, for better or worse, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing to do, runs on symbolism.
Mhm.
Like the milk carton is a symbol for a lack of respect.
Yes. Yes.
Like, how dare you just put it back? You knew I'd pick it up. Now I don't
That's
have
actually one of the lyrics. The chorus is like, how dare you? How dare you? I thought that I could trust you. It's so true though. It's like, it's so, everybody gets that feeling. Like you hate that. Those
Yeah.
leftovers you left in the fridge, someone ate them before you, like, we have an issue now.
Yeah. It's not the milk carton. It's what it symbolizes.
Yes.
Yes. 100. But do you have like something like that? We'll call it your milk carton moment. Something that you feel, it may be small, but the minute somebody does it, you're like, okay, we're not gonna work. You're done. You're done, sir. That TikTok meme.
There's probably a lot of things off the top of my head. Um, I I tend to kind of get that way when I hear like, I don't know. I get that way when I hear people like ridicule other people's like music in a setting with a bunch of other people in there. I get like really weird about that.
Mm,
Yeah, that's like a big respect thing for me. I'm like, I
yeah.
thought that I could trust you, you know,
Yeah.
because I don't know that's just the first thing that kind of pops in my mind. It was actually an inspiration behind the song. It was kind of like a theme, that was, it wasn't just the milk carton and I opened up a fridge one day. It was like I had an instance where someone had done something like that and I, kind of went ding.
Yeah. That's a
Respect.
good that's a good milk carton moment because I definitely feel that's one of those moments. I remember I used to have a friend who was super gossipy about people.
Mhm.
And then one day they were gossiping about somebody who was their roommate and was really good to them. And I don't know why they were talking. And then something in my head said, I wonder if you talk about me like this.
Mhm. Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it never
Or
hit me that maybe they talk about me like this.
yeah. And I think just like on a level of like music and respect and like knowing the artist's struggle, like knowing like this stuff is not easy, You always hope that, you know, other creatives in other places would do the same thing. So that's kind of, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's that one. So
No, I think you're totally right because it's kind of like there's a feeling that you'll get a lot of milk carton moments compared to Apple Boy moments where you're like, oh my God, I found the holy grail of my voice. And that it's hard. There's a lot of positive versus negative
totally.
in this industry. And I wonder then, what is the positive that you feel helps you kind of be consistent and say, okay, I know I had today I swam through a tsunami. Keep swimming because tomorrow I'll just be swimming through a lake.
But what keeps me positive through that?
What is a positive that
Mm,
you feel keeps you positive? Something that had the milk that keeps you going.
the milk that keeps me going. Honestly, my love for it, like my belief in it. I think that that's the thing that keeps me going. That's pretty much it. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of days where I'm like, tsunami, COVID, tsunami, you know, but like,
That's a ringtone right there. If you say it like that,
tsunami,
tsunami.
yeah, yeah, tsunami. It's true. But yeah, just like belief, like, you know your purpose, like what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. And it's kind of just the way it is, for me. I feel like, I'm originally from Georgia, so I'm right outside of Atlanta. And I moved to, I don't technically live in LA, but I live right outside of LA. Because LA too expensive for me. Can't do that. But I think I didn't really know anyone out here. I mean, that was, and I grew up in a kind of a pretty low key area, and not a lot of people were doing, things. So that I like think about that all the time, like what really brought me out here. And at the time that I came out here, like I knew I wanted to do music, but I didn't really have like these grand plans. Like I'm going to LA. Like it was just kind of purely, you know, belief and just like, okay, this is the next thing. And I feel like I'm supposed to go do it, and I'm going to go do it. That's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that feels like a weird tsunami lake moment where you're kind of like, I got to do something big for this thing that makes me feel big. Good luck. It
Yeah,
really is
totally. Yeah.
just, yeah, it's like kind of swimming a tsunami with only a safety vest on.
Mhm.
Really, it when you think of artists, it is a crazy choice, I think, because there's absolutely no safety net beyond. I don't know if it's necessarily belief in yourself. I think I wrote a review recently about how somebody, there's this idea of rainbow aura, and that when a person becomes a star, you feel like this rainbow aura around them. And I wrote how I there's certain artists that I followed their whole career, and now I feel they have the rainbow aura because they believe in themselves.
Mm.
Whereas before, they just, it's not, they either believed in music, or more so they knew, I don't have anything but this. And believing in yourself is believing that I am this.
Mm.
If that's the difference. Like I feel like you start your journey as an artist when you realize, well, I'm not going to do it. I can't be a lawyer.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm here in this office 9 to 5. This isn't working. And you actually become a star when you're like, yeah, this is me.
Yeah. Like what was it's almost what you were designed to do. And some people are really great nurses, some people are really great lawyers. They have, we have these different skill sets. So
Yeah. And you're
yeah.
like, I'm an artist. Please, God, may I not have been designed to be poor. I think that's ultimately the low key prayer that every artist has. Like, I'm accepting, universe, your desire for me to be music. Please, here's my bank account.
Here is my entire bank account.
Elevate.
Elevate, yes.
Elevate to God. But one fun question that fun, I guess, in a nerdy way, is I always ask people, what is a good book or TV show or movie that you think would be a perfect concept album?
That is a perfect question, because right now for the EP that I'm writing, I'm reading a book and kind of writing about it. It's called The Secret Life of Colors. And it kind of goes through the history of color and, way back to when man first began, whenever that was.
Yeah.
And it kind of talks about how it's shaped and it shaped culture, and it shaped the world, and all these meanings of color that we don't even think about, and all the ways in which they communicate to the people around us, and we don't even realize. So I'm writing about that. My next EP is about that exact concept. Yeah.
That definitely feels like an artist thing, though, of just massively curious about how things came to be. Like, who decided green was green? Does anybody know how does a television really work? Really work?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a color that you kind of are like impressed by their history? Like before it was gray, but now you're like, now you're gray.
That I'm reading about?
Yeah.
There's this really cool color that it was funny because I have this like thing of, you know how you go to, you know, Walmart or wherever it is, and you'll get all your little like color pencils and you're, I don't know if you do that. I'm a total, that is how I write. I don't even get into a meeting. I don't type things. I like write it all on a piece of paper, get my colorful thing, like I need it. And I got these cute, you know, markers or whatever. And one of them was called, the color shade was ultramarine. And like a day before I had bought this book that I'm reading, and like that name stuck with me. I was like, ultramarine, I've never heard of that.
Beautiful. That name.
And so the next day I'm reading this book, and one of the first colors that they go into the history of was what? Ultramarine. And it's just this really beautiful, vivid color of blue. And I'm trying to think of like, it was really expensive. I think it was it Mike? Who was it that, I don't know what artist. I'm not going to say an artist because I'm not going to, about to look stupid on here. But some of the biggest artists like couldn't even get their hands on it because it was so expensive, because it was so beautiful. And so there's some of these, you know, the painting of the girl with the pearl earring.
Yeah.
So it talks about how the artist couldn't even, he wanted to use, you know, that color in that painting, but he couldn't even attain it because it was so valuable. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of a cool, ultramarine means beyond the sea as well. I don't know, I just like all that little, like, here's this little piece and this little piece. And if I feel connected to like a word enough, and I feel like if the word tells enough of a story, like that's how I write.
Mm.
I don't necessarily sit down and like toy with piano or guitar. Like I try to read, and I try to like, you know, figure out what stands out to me, and then I like to build stories around that. And that was kind of what that word did for me.
I
So
mean, it's, first of all, it's a beautiful word. And yeah, I could definitely, I think in terms of music methods, for me, it's a mixture of either listening to the beat and letting it come, or just kind of having an ultramarine moment
mhm.
and being like, wow, I just, like, you're on the train and you see this woman come in with like a really vivid red scarf, and right there it's like, let me just put that down into a verse.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Painting pictures. It's like, it's what we do. We paint
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah. And for some reason I'm thinking of, there's an account on TikTok that is like all about really beautiful random colors. And I think the color that really impressed me was called Schloboff. Schloboff.
What kind of color was it?
It was the most gorgeous neon green, like
Ooh.
this neon turquoise, almost like
Mhm.
it a little bit lighter than turquoise and bright. And I was like, you never would think that with a name like Schluboff.
Schlub-
Like if you told me like ultramarine, you're like, yeah, I could see it. Maybe it's gonna be a blue or green. But Schloboff, you're like, this is some weird German schnitzel that I could order. This
German schnitzel. That is so funny. Maybe I'll read about it in my book, and then I can let you know.
you're like,
No,
Schloboff.
schlub.
You're like totally impressed by the color. You're like, yeah, you're not a Schloboff. Like it's one of those moments where the name does not match the person.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Where you're like, you are not your name. Your mother did not have a vision of who you
Something
would
is
be in
off.
the future.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And those moments are super rare. They never happen where somebody oddly does not match their name.
Yeah, but then you remember it.
Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, yeah, that is it, that David? Yeah, I know that David. Yeah, yeah, that David. David Schlaboff, yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
David S, yeah, yeah. How did, well, wrapping up the interview, how did you feel your name embodied you? Was there a moment, a David S moment?
Um, I don't know if it was necessarily a moment. Mae Mae is what my family calls me. And I feel like it's a little bit of like, I mean, I love my family. It's that's like the biggest thing in my life. And so um I just really liked that. I just liked the, May and May.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cute. I kind of thought you know, I feel like it has the ability to be like kind of cute and frilly, but also like I think it's really cool that it has like, I don't know, you can make it whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's two of them. You can make them whatever you want. Like they can be a little bit more
The
serious.
duality. Yeah.
Mhm. So that was
So
kind of it for me. Like, I'm not going to overcomplicate this. My name will be May May.
Mae Mae goes to LA.
May
That's a
May.
concept
Yes.
album right
Yes.
there.
That is.
That's a concept. One side of Mae Mae serious, the other side is
Yeah,
goofy. Yeah,
totally.
I see that. I imagine that when you go back to Georgia, they immediately give you, oh, she's LA now.
I don't know.
I feel like that's a
Maybe,
family thing to do. That's a very family thing to act like you've changed because of your location change.
yes. It is funny just because like the South, like there's so, they just don't. I have not met people that are like, I want to go to LA. Like, anybody that I know from there is like, screw LA. Like, what do so
Yeah.
a lot of people, but I actually haven't caught that. Maybe I'm just really naive and
Yeah.
unaware.
Maybe you're
But
not maybe you're not feeling that peach, that Georgia peach shade, that GPS.
you're like speaking. I have one of my new songs is called Peach and it's about being Georgia Peach. It's on my color album. So
Yeah, I'm hitting like everything and not even realizing it.
you're not really, but I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about my next EP. I think I'm supposed to be talking about my most recent one.
Yeah, yeah, don't give previews. Don't give previews. No, but that's good. It's good to know. I imagine, because I've interviewed enough artists to know that a lot of them get really frustrated over the fact that by the time by the time the project that they're over with comes out, they're on to probably their second EP after.
Totally. Yeah.
So
It's
we're talking
frustrating,
about
but
that.
it's exciting. It's frustrating, but it's annoying. It's more annoying, I would say. But it's also very fun and exciting. And I'm really excited about what I'm finally getting to put out right now. It's just it'll be a fun journey. That's it. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what it comes down to. But um
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like the release of your music will never catch up to where you are musically.
yeah,
And I think that's the frustration. Like you're not in this place anymore. And by the time listeners get to this place, you're probably 3 steps ahead.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
pretty much.
tried my very best during this whole COVID to not listen to my own music as much as possible. And so I think that that's like, I didn't keep anything on my phone. Everything was on my laptop. So like, if I wanted to listen to something in the car, like I just would kind of force myself not to. Um, and I think that's actually been really helpful because now, I have the ability to listen to it with fresh ears,
Yeah.
so that's really nice because it feels new again, as opposed to being like, "Ugh, I'm so sick and tired of this, like demoitis kind of
Yeah.
situation."
I think if you listen to your music too much, there's this weird thing that happens where at first you're like, I am a star. This is a hit. The world needs to hear this. And then it becomes like, especially like for some artists, after it's released, it's like dead. It's like, I don't know that kid. I never met that kid. Went to college like freshman year. That's the last time I saw
Yes.
him. Yeah, basically. That's David S. That's David
Mhm.
Schlaboff. But
Blah, blah.
I always end my interviews with like some moonology cards, like for affirmations. Do you want me to pull for you? I always ask.
Yeah, I would love it.
Okay, so I
So
shuffle.
they give you affirmations?
Yeah, they give you like your first card was it's time to release a negativity, full moon in Scorpio.
Ooh.
It's time to take action, new moon in Aries. Very interesting. Like with just these two, full moon is about releasing, new moon is about receiving. So, and they're both like, what's coming out to me is like the signs, Scorpio and Aries. Like a new moon in Aries is very fiery. Like you're about to receive a lot of fiery opportunities. And you're going to have to like just kind of pick up and go with them. And a full moon in Scorpio, Scorpios are like notoriously structured. So it's kind of what it's trying to say is like, you have to release your negativity, and it's as if you've almost structured it. Like there's a structured pattern of behavior of kind of doubt that the new opportunities that are coming in are going to be like so flamed up that you got to leave old doubts, old behaviors that I guess sometimes as human beings, we have the tendency to kind of, we deal with our negativity in that it's there. We don't necessarily heal it. We just know how to pattern it into our life. And then you got the last two cards are show the world the real you, full moon in Aquarius, and be bold and make the first move, cardinal move. And that a cardinal moon. And that kind of matches this in that if you release the negativity and kind of light up that fire of meet the fire of the opportunities that are coming ahead, you will be able to just dive in, no overthinking. And the way you don't overthink is by being the real you. Like when you're actually you, you don't think about it because you're just too busy being it. Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like as you were just talking, I like, you know, when you feel like your brain's being massaged. Like the best. Like when I meet a person where when I'm talking to them and I just could like you could just talk forever and I could just be like, yes, just please. That's what just happens to me. So
yeah, because you did go a little like, I'm taking this in so much right now. It's like when somebody's doing your hair and you're like,
that was what it was.
You don't need to stop. Just massaging. Yeah. I love that. Well, you make me feel so good. I'll pull another one. One last one. I pulled 4. I'll pull another one. But yeah, that interesting cards. Okay. Full moon and Sagittarius. Look at the bigger picture. So you got a lot of, you've gotten basically 3 full moons, which is full moons are always about releasing. Look at the bigger picture. Sagittarius is kind of, you know, a Sagittarius, Miley Cyrus is a Sagittarius, you know, they're bombastic, they're bold. And that's kind of what it's asking you. A great way to be yourself is by keeping that vision of yourself in the future that I think every artist has this star in their head that's like totally walking into rooms, never nervous, never kind of doesn't even have to network anymore. They're just like, people come to me. If you are that person now, then you will become that person in the future. That's what it's trying to say. You got the milk. You got the milk.
I got the milk. I love it. The milk was not empty. The milk is not empty.
The Schlabhoff, the ultramarine, we have attained it. Yes. Well, I mean, this was a great interview. We kind of went through everything. Milk cartons, my crinkle hair. We did it all.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. This was great.
Well, I'll send you a link when live, and this was so cool. It was great meeting you. You got great cards, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
You too. See you. Bye.
Bye.